collecting, presenting and analysing data. This presentation is in video form, so you may wish to stop and start it if you can't read all the slides in time. Just as a reminder, you need to think about your paradigm, your methodological approach, your methods, your study participants, the ethics, how you're going to analyse your data, and the validity of it all. It's really important to approach your data analysis in a structured way. Choose the best methods that will give you the appropriate data to answer your question, and then things will be much easier. Pause this slide about 10 seconds in so that you can see all of the information, and have a look at the methods and then answer the questions, and then think about how it relates to your own inquiry subject. We're now going to work through some different methods, so try and work through them with your own inquiry in mind and see which ones are most appropriate. Try not to skip them because they may add some things that you haven't already thought of. Interviews are a good way of getting qualitative data, but there are lots of things to think about. Think about how you will record the data. Also think about how you will analyse it. What will you do with it? How are you going to manage that? And then think about what your own impact is on the process, and whether there are things to think about, like whether you manage the people concerned or they manage you. Observation is another good way of getting data, but it does only capture a snapshot in time, and you can't assume that the same things will happen all the time, so it needs careful thinking about. Observation can be very time-consuming, and you can't guarantee that what you want to happen will happen when you are there. You mustn't read into or infer behaviour. However, it will give you some first-hand experience, and you will know what the environment is as well as the ambience. Some people think that questionnaires are an easy option, but there are lots of things that can go wrong. Please pilot your questions to make sure you're getting the responses that will help you to answer your question. Sound out your supervisor and lots of other people before you give those questionnaires out. Your supervisor will help with this. Think about how to circulate your questionnaires and how many people to circulate them to. Do not expect them all to come back, particularly if you're using email or the post. You might wish to use a digital tool like SurveyMonkey. If you do a paid monthly subscription, it will start to analyse that data for you. If your project contains an element of content analysis, you will need to put together a framework that links to your literature review. Don't start out without knowing exactly what you are trying to analyse. Case studies are another good way of getting qualitative data, however they can be complicated. You need to think about all the different things that need to come together to give you a holistic picture of the phenomenon that you are trying to examine. With a case study approach, you do need to be really organised because you'll end up with lots of different data that needs to come together to help you answer your question. Action research is a very dynamic way of improving professional practice. You do need to start with a problem or a baseline measurement though, and then you need to decide on what it is you're going to innovate or change and come up with some way of measuring that. How can you be sure that B has happened because of a change in A? Think about who's going to be involved in your inquiry. It will probably be better to go deeper with fewer participants than to try and get lots of participants and skim over the surface. Essentially, you need to defend your choice. Why was your final group of subjects the best ones to help you answer your question? Think about any possible bias in your sampling. If you suspect that it hasn't worked out quite as well as you thought it might, then you can just be reflexive about it and discuss it when you come to think about what could have been done better in your inquiry. Whatever you do, please pilot any methods that you're going to use, particularly questions that you might put into questionnaires or ask at interviews. People who don't pilot often come a cropper because they don't get the responses to their questions that they thought that they might, and therefore their data isn't quite as they thought it might be. For task 2, make some guesses at the sort of data that you will get and how you might analyse it. You might find that it isn't actually like that when you come to do it, but for this task we do need you to try and think ahead. You don't know what you don't know, but do your best on this one. Finally, get yourself a good methodology text or texts. Look at the reading list on KV615 on Student Central and you'll see a number of them indicated. Many of them are very much the same, so there's not necessarily a best one to get, but you will find this invaluable. Good luck and enjoy your inquiry. We'll look forward to reading them next May.
Created using Powtoon.